Hey guys, Dr. Frank here, founder of AddictionMindset. I'm so happy you're tuning in for today's video. We're going to be discussing vaping and anxiety, or rather, we're going to be talking about nicotine addiction and anxiety as a whole in this video. This is a question that I get asked about all the time, whether it's on TikTok or Instagram, wherever it may be. So let's jump right into it. The most important thing that you need to understand when it comes to nicotine addiction and anxiety is that nicotine doesn't actually help with anxiety. It's quite the opposite. It makes it significantly worse. And there's two primary reasons why that is. So let's start with reason number one, and let's talk a little bit about how nicotine works. So when you consume nicotine, it binds to nicotine receptors in your brain. Now, someone who regularly uses nicotine has billions more nicotine receptors in their brain than someone who does not use nicotine. Every time you consume nicotine, whether it's through dip or through a vape or through a cigarette or even through nicotine gum or nicotine patches, those nicotine receptors in your brain become stimulated. When that occurs, your body releases things called neurotransmitters. Primarily serotonin, dopamine being a really big one, and a little bit of adrenaline or epinephrine as well too. So short term, for that reason, you consume nicotine and your brain releases dopamine. It may help relieve stress and anxiety. Short term, there is that beneficial effect. Short term, your body also releases a little bit of adrenaline. So you get that rush. That's why so many athletes claim that using nicotine before a sporting event or someone consuming nicotine before a test or during a long period of studying, it helps them remain more alert. It's because of that adrenaline and dopamine release, which can also seem to help with focus and a few other things. But remember, that's very short term. Now, I say nicotine causes anxiety, and this is why. The anxiety that you're receiving relief from when you consume nicotine is the anxiety that's created by the craving. So believe it or not, when you're addicted to nicotine, your body goes through cravings every 30 minutes to every hour and a half. You use nicotine, those nicotine receptors are stimulated, your body releases dopamine, and you become accustomed to this. Your body begins to prefer this method of dopamine release. Now what happens? You get stuck in class, you're stuck in a car ride with a family member, you're stuck at work, and you're sitting there just waiting. When am I going to get my next nicotine fix? When am I going to get that next nicotine hit? And you start to develop cravings. If you wait long enough, your body actually starts to go through withdrawal. You might begin getting a headache. Your heart rate might speed up. You start to experience withdrawal even though you're in the middle of active addiction with nicotine. That withdrawal, especially the increased heart rate, can actually result in anxiety. Now all of a sudden you're saying, I'm anxious, I just need that nicotine to calm down. The only thing that using nicotine, the only anxiety that it's going to relieve is the anxiety that's being created by the craving for nicotine itself. Some people say, oh, but if I'm stuck in traffic and I have anxiety, oh, if I have a stressful night studying for a test. That's not true. Nicotine does not fix any of those things. It's simply your brain is having an intense craving, those receptors for nicotine. So that craving then results in a heightened state of anxiety. You then consume nicotine and all of a sudden you feel good again. But the only reason you feel good again is because you satisfied the craving. And that's the primary reason why nicotine doesn't actually help to solve anxiety. It actually leads to more anxiety. So you get anxiety because your body has a craving because it's starting to enter a state of withdrawal. So to be very clear, nicotine does not fix anxiety. It actually leads to another level of anxiety. You might have anxiety from sitting in traffic or schoolwork or whatever it is, but now you also have the added anxiety of wondering when you're going to be able to get your next hit or your next fix. Now, the second reason why nicotine also creates more anxiety, and this really goes for any addiction, is because it puts whatever's on your mind, whatever's causing you stress, whatever's causing you anxiety. When you have an addiction and you consume a substance, nicotine, weed, cocaine, heroin, whatever the addiction is to, temporarily you get that relief, and you're able to block out those things in your mind. I know this was especially true with marijuana. At the end of the day, I'm stressed out from work, I'm stressed out from a relationship, whatever it may be. I go home, I smoke, I consume nicotine, maybe I drink, and you kind of forget about reality for a minute. You enter almost a temporary state of psychosis where you forget reality. But then you wake up the next day and you didn't do the homework that you needed to do. You didn't work on that relationship. Maybe you had a goal that you had set in your personal life for a business, or maybe you set a goal as an athlete. Whatever that goal is, whatever that thing is that needs to be addressed, suddenly was pushed to the back burner because you took your time and you took your attention, and instead of focusing on the issue at hand, you focused on getting that high. You focused on consuming that substance. So now, here you are in this relaxed state because you consume the substance. The high eventually wears off. You wake up the next day or a few hours go by, and boom, the problems are still there. You still have these issues ahead of you that you need to face. And now those issues have simply been procrastinated. So now the anxiety that you had before about those issues is significantly magnified. That's another primary reason why nicotine, or any addictive substance for that matter that creates a high, does not relieve anxiety. It simply put off whatever it is that you really want to go after, that you really want to address. And I think this is especially important for those of you guys that are motivated individuals, ambitious individuals. You have big dreams, you have big goals, you have things in life you want to accomplish. Often these things are very daunting tasks. You think big, but now instead of thinking big about how you're going to accomplish those things, you're focusing your time, your energy, and your efforts into getting high, putting the things that you really care about in life on the back burner, which of course is going to lead to more long-term anxiety. When you first quit, of course, you're going to have a little bit of anxiety about quitting from the withdrawals, maybe from the increased heart rate. Of course, you're going to have some anxiety about how am I going to live my life without nicotine? How am I going to live my life without weed? How am I going to live my life without this substance? But the reality of the situation is you will overcome those withdrawals in time. I promise. We're going to make more videos about that. So never let yourself be convinced that nicotine helps with anxiety, because it only makes it significantly worse for the two reasons I described. And more importantly, realize that the anxiety that surrounds quitting is simply it's a mindset created by addiction. But you're stronger than that. You're better than that. You know better. You know deep down that the addiction is not going to be the solution. And that's why when you use again and you relapse, you actually wind up with more anxiety, because you're continuing to do something that you don't want to do anymore, which of course is going to result in more anxiety. Coach Jared is going to make a video talking about anxiety and how to maybe overcome it when it goes to accomplishing your goals and when it comes to accomplishing your ambitions. But I can assure you, I promise you this, nicotine and substance abuse is not your friend when it comes to managing anxiety. Not to mention the anxiety that you then have about your health, about your finances, about the relationships that this addiction is putting a stress on. I could go on and on about the ways that nicotine is not helping your anxiety. It's simply a facade created in your mind by addiction that it does. It's one of those lies that addiction tells us. Stay tuned for more great content. We have a lot more videos to come. Call our offices, reach out if you need help for coaching, and look for Jared's video on overcoming anxiety when it comes to accomplishing your goals. Have a good one.